You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com. Welcome everyone to another Workshop Wednesdays, casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where it's all about learning QuickBooks your way, however you prefer, whether it's do it with you or do it for you or do it yourself. You run the spectrum. So nothing more serious in an accountant's workflows than the bank feed, right, Rachel?
Yep.
How important is
well in QuickBooks Online?
Yeah.
Specifically, yeah.
How important is managing the bank feed to you and your practice in your day to day? Would you say it's like 50% of where you live, or is it more or less than that?
Well, for me personally, I'm not in the bank feeds anymore, but for my team, it is very
For
important.
net deposited, I should say.
Yeah, for net deposited, it is very important because we typically manage our clients' bank feeds. Because as I usually say, it's very important. It's usually the source of a lot of mistakes if done wrong. So for me, it's very important. But I was going to say, for other folks, it really depends on who you ask.
Right. Yeah. For those people that are watching, how important is the bank feed to you?
Yeah, I mean, for some people, maybe that are newer to QuickBooks and maybe don't understand it as much, maybe it's less important. For somebody that might be a stronger user, it's very important. So I think it really depends.
Yeah, that's the adult diaper answer. It depends.
Always depends.
Right. Right. So here's our question of the day. How important is whoops, I spelled it wrong. So that's what I should say. How important is the QBO bank feed in your day to day, right? I think that is one of the bank feed itself is probably one of QuickBooks Online's shining features, right? Because compared, stacking it up against, QuickBooks Desktop, that there are things that you could do just natively in the QuickBooks Online bank feed that you can't do in desktop, like, skip over the workflows, right? So,
yeah,
and going back in time of when, QuickBooks bank, online banking was a thing, right? The main reason or the whole purpose of the bank feed itself was to help with bank reconciliation, right? Because when you get that statement and comparing it and matching that to what you have inside of your QuickBooks is, part of the key fundamental workflows of making sure that your books are up to date, right? So the bank feed itself was to solve for that, making sure that what's in QuickBooks matches the bank's reality of what should be in QuickBooks, right? So that was the whole purpose, is just downloading the transactions and matching or adding the transaction inside of QuickBooks. Now with QuickBooks Online, you can start to skip over some of the things that you should have done inside of your QuickBooks, right? So like if you have a deposit coming in and it's really a customer payment, you can look at potential transactions that are still open and assign it to open invoices, right? So then QuickBooks then starts to create the missing workflows for you. And I think it's a double-edged sword. And Rachel, I'm kind of curious of your position on that, or your perspective, is that if you miss the next in line type of transaction, like invoice, you should be creating a payment.
Mhm.
and you should be depositing it,
Yep.
right? So if you skipped either of those two steps, the bank feed allows you just to apply that payment or apply that deposit to the open invoice. You're done.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your thoughts about that? Are you gonna be like, well,
Well,
that's
I
nice.
yeah, I mean, I am now that I'm much more experienced, I'm inclined to really follow the proper workflow. I really want to make sure that there's a received payment for every time there is an invoice. But I like that, if something maybe unusual is going on, I can just apply it directly to the invoice. I like the fact that there's a lot of um, flexibility and I can kind of do
Mhm.
this, or especially if I'm going back and I'm fixing something, I have the option to do this or I have the option to do that. Just yesterday I was trying to get a match, and I was in the new bank feed, which we'll talk about,
Mhm.
and I couldn't get that match. And I was like, I know it's in there. It's not reconciled. I'm in the right date frame. Like, why is it not matching? And I think there's some things going on in the new interface that maybe are
Mhm.
causing things to not match. There is no reason why this should not be matching. But I was like, well, let me just take off the received payment and just match it directly to the invoice, because I knew that way I could
Mhm.
get it out of the bank feed. And so I like that there's a lot of different, interesting ways that I can kind of monkey with it and make it work. But
Right.
um, but it's so funny because like as I've become, more of a power user of QBO, and at being the owner of an accounting firm, I have a lot of different exposure to a lot of different kinds of business owners, and some folks just don't want or like or need the bank feeds. And so it's really, now I've sort of grown to understand that bank feeds are really amazing and awesome for those of us that love the automation. And, there are folks that really are into QuickBooks Online because they really appreciate and are really into automation. And, a lot of the features that it'll do for you. And, a lot of times you're setting up for that match, right?
Mhm.
Um, and, so I love the automation and I love that I can use the bank feeds to pull in, all the things, and a lot of times I will add things right out of the bank feeds, and so it, I think it's a really great thing. But then every once in a while I'll run into, maybe somebody a little more old school and they don't want it. They want to enter everything the old fashioned way.
Right.
And so it's interesting that you kind of run into the gamut out there of a lot of different people, but in the QBO and Intuit world, it seems that most people really prefer the bank feeds and appreciate the automation. It's just that they change the way that it looks all the time, and that's where it drives me cuckoo.
Yeah, that is probably like I think that's probably the biggest challenge and
Yeah.
hurdle, right? So if you have a feature and a function of that is essentially a core offering or a core function of QuickBooks, there is no delicate way to make a change to that.
Right.
so so I
Yeah.
can appreciate that, they've pretty much overhauled the whole thing because rather than just kind of take, death by a thousand cuts of like we're going to tweak this and we're going to tweak that, they just basically, rip the band-aid off. You end up, needing to spend, you know, uh, a painful amount of time, however it is, if whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, getting yourself acclimated to the new layout and whatnot. And then after that, you're in it so much as a bookkeeping professional that okay, these things just kind of make sense now, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm, fully aware now that how we use it, we're always wanting to improve efficiency. And, it makes me think of Hector Garcia, who's like, I want to take 2 seconds out of my
Right.
process, and have, 3 clicks instead of 5 clicks. And, he's the master of efficiency. And it's a big deal. You can end up saving a lot of time. So just when you kind of think you have something streamlined, because you're doing a lot of books, that's totally different than, Intuit's responsibility for selling to business owners that are
Mhm.
DIYing. I understand not everybody is using a bookkeeping or accounting professional. So, they have a hard job having to appeal to very different
Mhm.
consumer groups and,
Yeah.
basically selling one product to some business owners who have no, or business folk that have no idea what they're doing, to seasoned accountants with accounting degrees. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, that's a unique situation to be in, having to sell a product to
Yeah.
those one singular product to two different groups. And I know they've been through all kinds of things, like, we're going to have a business view, we're going to have an accountant view, that's going to solve our problem. So
Right.
which didn't work out well. So I know they have a tough job, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to kind of see how they're, coming up with these things to kind of speak to the two groups. And now I sort of realize more than ever that, what, I think as the accounting professional, I'm going to have to kind of be a little more flexible, because if I want to keep using this as a tool for all of my clients,
Yeah.
then, which, by the way, it's not all of my clients, we're using some other stuff now,
Yeah.
then, it's fine. I'm fine with adapting a little bit.
Yeah. And actually, Intuit just released actually today their the results of their tech survey. Every year they do they do a survey of accounting professionals and about technology and how those firms are adapting or struggling to adapt new technology. And it's pretty interesting. And I just posted a blog about it, and I'll share that as well. But um, part of the challenge, and to what you were saying there, is that you know you finally get it down, and then things change,
Yeah.
right? So like there is that learning curve of learning something new, going into, and especially in an online software as a service,
Yeah.
where when I worked there, the first call of the day is when I found out what changed, because somebody was going to
Right.
call call about it. It was like, oh, what they change today, right? Like, because it's impossible to be totally prepared, for all of the things that would happen when they make a change like that. The whole analogy of, you know, QuickBooks is a ball of rubber bands, and every single thing is needs to be put back exactly the same way when they try to fix something or modify something without breaking something else, right? So,
Yeah,
but
and it definitely can be a little disruptive. And I found, and I've found, even now as a firm owner, you just can't teach that stuff. Like, oh,
right,
you're going to get slowed down by software changes. I mean, that's
yeah,
just, it just happens. There's really not anything that you can do. And it's not even the fact that they're improving it. Like, I could probably learn it. It's just that then now my team has to learn it.
yeah,
And, everybody at if I'm talking about a client, like, if they've got somebody that's using the new feature, then, if they've got a couple people they've got to train,
mhm.
it kind of causes a snowball.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always that, if you don't want something to change, don't use software at all, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even if you're like, well, I love Excel, right? Right. Well, when has Excel not changed, right? Like even in every so often, Microsoft updates Excel, and then there's a new
Yeah.
menu
Yeah.
option or a new function. Yes, the core functionality of Excel is probably not changed, but whether this is shared or, OneDrive is pestering you, hey, let me save that file on the cloud,
Yeah, and
you
I
know,
think that the conversation has now become more, okay, things are going to change. So how
yeah,
quickly can
yeah,
you adapt to them
they've beaten
updating
us
this?
down.
Yeah, and, folding it into your firm, folding it into your operations,
Mhm.
and making sure that you're not, causing a whole bunch of confusion, because in the world of SaaS, everything is going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I put up in the upper corner, and I put in the comments a blog article that we're going to talk about with regards to the bank feeds. Let me just share that really quickly. So yeah, so I like to put a little dose or a healthy dose of skepticism, or at least trying to be objective in these kinds of changes, right? So you know,
Hmm.
being that the bank feed was working pretty well, why even change it, right? Like that's part of the challenge. And so the first thing that we have here in the blog is, you know, what was in the old bank feed, what's in the new AI powered bank feed, and really what's the difference. So this chart here should hopefully give you, a good understanding as to overarching wise what changed, and I'll go into QuickBooks here in a second. But we're not really going to match transactions, or put start to categorize transactions, because that's real data. So it's kind of
Hmm.
hard to demonstrate these things when you kind of need, having fake data to do all that is kind of challenging, right? So um, one of the biggest things that I struggled with explaining to people was that was just the terminology of add versus match and what
Yeah.
that actually did. So part of this overhaul is changing the terminology that's utilized inside of the bank feed to make a little bit more sense, right? So instead of add, which in essence is a downloaded transaction that's not in your that it doesn't find a match, right?
Correct.
Then it would add the transaction into the register, or whatever bank account that you're in, or credit card. Add would do that. They've changed that term to post, right?
I
So
like that. I have to
yeah,
say that I like.
right. So the two actions of what's going to happen to a downloaded transaction is either going to match to a transaction that's already there, or it's going to post a transaction that's not there, right? So
Well,
now
because
that,
that's the actual accounting term, is you're
yeah,
posting it to the ledger. Yeah.
exactly. And they changed the word, and added this word match or categorize as a little slider bar, so that you can choose what do you want to do with that, right? Like, if it thinks it's a match and it's not really one that you want to match, then you can change it to categorize. So those terminologies are a little bit more user friendly, because for those people who are doing their books their way, and they're maybe they're doing it, maybe they own the bank feed part of things, or they haven't met up with someone like Rachel to take over this this task for them, or they just want to see, the transactions come in and categorize them themselves. They can certainly do that, and now it makes a little bit more sense to somebody who's not sitting in the bank feed on a day-to-day basis. Okay, well, I want to post this transaction, or because add could have it's one of those words that could have multiple definitions, or
Right.
results of that, right? So
Yep.
add, is that a mathematical thing that we're talking about, or
Yeah.
are we
Or
adding the
or
transaction?
it could be misinterpreted as add it to something that has already
Yeah,
been added.
right, right.
Right?
Somebody could
So
determine
then,
that
and
definition to be match, right, instead of
yeah, exactly. And so they're mistaking one for the other. And so
Mhm,
I do sometimes, from potential clients that I'm talking to, this is their number one source of confusion.
mhm. Yeah, and a big challenge also was dealing with transfers, right? So when you have two accounts that are connected, both sides, a checking and a savings, and say you do a transfer from a checking to the savings, depending on your rules that you might have set up, or which one you acted to first, it could either get duplicated or not. And when that happens, then now you've got duplication, and now you've created a problem in the name of efficiency. So
Yeah,
that
which is what we spend the most time cleaning up.
right. So that's one of the things that's part of this overhaul is pairing transfers in more so than what it was doing in the old bank feed. So you
Yeah.
have and it makes it a little bit more bubbles up to the surface. So the whole idea of this new AI powered bank feed is to kind of give the best of both worlds, right? The things that were good about the bank feed are continuing, and the new things that they're looking to do inside of the bank feed are just kind of added to that. So should be a harmonious. That's the goal. It should be a harmonious union of what was good with the old bank feed and what where technology is kind of driving the changes that Intuit is looking to make. So that's what this chart is all about, right? And it's designed to give less manual work. You can customize the way the bank feed looks. The smarter suggestions, those are things that it should allow you to do. I have been using the new bank feed. I don't know about you. Um, the context that it's able to provide inside the bank feed now without you having to browse to other places is pretty
Yeah, that I like. That I like. But
it's
I will say the smarter suggestions is probably the one thing that I would say, I don't know. I don't believe
yeah.
it. Because that's the one thing that um I would say in if I had a pie that I had to split up of things like it things that confuse people about the bank feeds and I had to split it up into like portions of a pie, I would
Uh-huh.
say 95% of it is, why is it suggesting that this is the account, this isn't the account, it's not
Right.
this account, it's not that account, and I'm like, that's okay. It's suggesting it. We know it's not right. Oh my gosh. It's like if I had a nickel for that. So that, I mean, for every time, I'd be a
Mhm.
millionaire, but that to me is drives people down the wrong road. I almost wish that that wasn't even there
Mhm.
because of the confusion that it causes.
Right. And now, Intuit is calling the AI icon, which is like these little diamonds, the different kind of diamonds. They're calling them sparkles. Right? So it is kind of like this magic dust that you're
Hmm.
seeing sprinkled throughout QuickBooks, but that is kind of like I think where we're at right now with regards to AI and technology and machine learning and all of the um, you know the computing and technology things that we seem to be struggling with, that is kind of the indicator in at least in my mind. When I see it, that icon, I'm like, okay, this is something new, and it needs some investigation, right? So this is something that technology is trying to do, and it's not necessarily a human that has interfaced with this, maybe not yet, but let's check it out. And you know see if it has some value, or maybe it's just kind of making things up along the way, because AI hallucinations is not a bug, right? Like AI being incorrect is not a flaw. It's just a, an issue with the inputs, right? So,
Yeah.
if it's giving you smarter suggestions that seem dumb, then it's basing that off of dumb inputs, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know where they're getting their information to make those suggestions. Maybe it's all businesses. Maybe it's all businesses in your industry. Maybe it's information from from the bank feed, or
Yeah.
from the bank detail that it's trying to parse out, and that maybe have a flaw in it, right? So it's not that it's and it wants to give you an answer and be helpful. It's kind of like Clippy from Microsoft
Yeah.
Office,
Yeah.
zipping by on his bicycle, saying, "Hey, do you want to write an email?"
I feel
Right?
like if I could have a um like if I could ask the AI brainiacs one question. I would say, if it doesn't have the exact category, can I turn on an option to leave it blank? Like that's kind of
Mhm.
what I would like, because then we're the ones that have to translate it to
Right.
the folks and go, well, it's not that it's the hallucinations not bad. It's just that it's pulling from a source and
Mhm.
it doesn't understand and yada yada. And I
Right.
feel like they're not as tech savvy, so that
Yeah.
they might not understand or whatever. So that's really my only contention. And I know that everybody that works in the bank feeds has had that where they're like, this isn't the category, what is it even thinking? So
Right.
that to me is just one thing that it has nothing to do with this upgrade. It just has, it's the one thing about the bank feeds that I don't
Mhm.
love is this smart suggestion. And but that's why I do utilize rules for certain things. For certain
Mhm.
things, I don't like to do it with money in, but certain things that are not Amazon, or that it could go anyway.
Mhm.
We definitely use a lot of rules
Yeah.
to save a lot of time, and so we'll continue using any kind of enhanced AI for that they're offering that gets smarter over time for that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. 100%.
Yeah. So this is just a dummy demo account. You can see the transactions in here from 2018. So um, certainly not up to date. But what I want to point out here is, let me just zoom in a little bit and let's get over here. So this banner, when you're logging into the bank feed and you're still on the old bank feed, if you see this banner across the top, you can click on this link here, and this is one of the things I got to give some credit to Intuit for, is the amount of resources that they've put in the product, so you don't have to go hunting down a webinar or look for the in the know or whatever. You can just click on this, see what's changed here, and well, now you don't have any real estate inside of your QuickBooks, but this sidebar that comes up, it's got a built-in YouTube video. It's got some tips, kind of highlights as to what it is, what it's supposed to be doing, and then these frequently asked questions are pretty cool too, because like, where are my AI suggestions? How do these work? And then you can get more information about how the AI suggestions work, right? And then your basics and navigation. How do you do all these things? And when you switch, right? So let me back up a second here. So when you decide, and make no mistake, there will be a point where you will not be able to decide, right? And you can't flip back and forth. I mean, this is something that, if you're looking for, this to stay the same way, um, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because it's going to change. It's just a matter. We're in this grace period point where you can flip back and forth between, if it's causing a problem or if there's a flaw or something like that. But eventually, and probably around September, October timeframe, everybody will be on the new bank feed. So trying to resist the change is really not a great idea.
Futile.
Yes, yes, it's the Borg of Star Trek, right? Resistance is futile here. But I will talk at just a minute after we go through this, about providing feedback about the bank feed. Intuit has actually created a new channel specifically just for this bank feed, and it's actually really cool. Um,
Cool.
but if you're in, you see what's changed here. You can go down to the frequently asked questions, basics, navigation, and then this is where the accounting agent. We talked about that a couple workshops ago. This is where the accounting agent is going to be living for all versions that have it, right? So you've got, with Simple Start, you've got a little bit with the suggestions, but the accounting AI agent in Essentials and higher versions has a little bit more robustness to it, and further features. But this is the core of the accounting agent's function, to be handling in the bank feed, right? So once you change, when you decide, okay, I'm going to try the new banking feed, it's going to take a minute for that to change. And by a minute, it could be an hour or two. So it doesn't instantaneously change on you. So when you click on try the new banking page, it's going to tell you, well, wait a second, and then come back. So don't turn it on if you've got work to do. Do it at the end, and then next time that you go in there, it'll be new. And when you log into it for the first time after you've made the change, it's going to give you that information that we just showed there on the sidebar, front and center, right? Like, so you're going to be essentially forced to review the change before you actually start using the change, right? And so what we've done at School of Bookkeeping, we have a QBO banking course, so you can see the old one, and we've taken all of the topics that and resources that Intuit's made available and compiled them in one place there too. So if you have a specific question about something in the QBO bank feed course, new or old, you can ask in the comments or in our community, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you right there, instead of having to deal with Intuit directly. But
yeah, and by the way, I would say if somebody's new to QuickBooks Online, let's say you're, employed at a business tasked with working in QuickBooks Online, or you're a business owner kind of DIYing, if you're not sure, bank feeds are, in my opinion, like one of the best places to start with kind of familiarizing yourself with QBO, because they're so it's really the point of entry with most things. And technically, you could enter all your transactions through the bank feed if you had to. So I highly recommend people check out that course, because this is very important.
Yeah, it's a core feature and offering inside of QuickBooks Online. So in our bank feed course, we've added a submodule just for the topics of the new AI bank feed. You can access it for free for 30 days. If you're not a member of School of Bookkeeping, we have a 30-day trial. So if that's something that's interesting to you, take a look at that course and ask your questions in there if you need to. Now, in the blog, at the bottom here, again, we're mentioning that resistance to the new bank feed is pretty futile, but you are along for the ride, and they do value your feedback, right? Everywhere there's a place inside of QuickBooks to give feedback. The challenge is that once you send that feedback, you don't know whether they got it, whether it posted, whether somebody read it,
they may
whether
be
it was
going delete,
whether
delete,
it was
delete, 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 delete.
exactly. Oh, Rachel again. She's
that
she's
crazy lady again, complaining about smart
right.
suggestions.
Yeah,
Although I
they're
think
used.
they've improved it. Do they still suggest everything go to uncategorized asset?
I don't know. They may have made that change, but there used to be a feedback place when I worked there, that was for a period of time, called Voice of the Customer, and you could actually see posts, you could see people's suggestions, and as a logged in person in that portal, you could vote on them. So you don't have to sit there and put in your feedback and then somebody else put in the exact same feedback, and then somebody else having to realize that this equals that and make it two.
Yeah.
You can just go in there and just go, I like that idea.
Yeah. Like Reddit.
Or
Vote it up.
exactly. So for this functionality, for this feature, this initiative of the new bank feed, Intuit is trying something new, which is very similar to what we just talked about there, and it's called Canny. And they're just doing it for the new bank feeds. And in there, you can see the roadmap of what's planned, what has been released. Right now, there's only 8 things in here, but you can see you can categorize things in here. You can create a post and put in your feedback once you've created a login. Suggestion is to use the same email address for this login as your QuickBooks Online Intuit login. So there's a connection between the two, and you can see the change log. As far as this also gives now product managers and developers a way to communicate the feedback back to you, right? Like, here's the things that we're working on, right? So anything that's in here, let me go into, let's say, group transactions by status of the request for information. Most of that was a suggestion, right? And this person here is saying a new grouping option would allow you to view transactions in the bank transactions by their request for more information status. These transactions are now neatly organized for waiting for reply, reply received, and completed. So this is something that's planned, and you can just go in here and bump it up, right? So right now it's got four people voted on it, right? So this would be part of the process, rather than just trying to struggle with the change, making it better and seeing and interacting with others who are having the same potential struggles as you.
Yeah, that's
you
a
may
great
you may
idea.
you may find in here that there is a solution or a workaround in here, or it's something that is going to be taken care of. So you can kind of get off the get down from your soapbox of like shaking your fists at Intuit for making this
Yeah.
change to begin with. You can actually see a little bit more transparent of what feedback is being collected and what feedback is being worked on, and maybe some of the things that you didn't even think of that are already being worked on. So this is kudos
Oh,
to
look, you can
Intuit.
even see who's been voting on it too. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly.
Did you happen to come across anything that talks specifically about matching? Because that's another thing is that, and that's not specific. Well, is that considered a bank feed function? I don't really know, but
Mhm.
really, it's searching for a match in there, and a lot of times there is a transaction in there and it's not bringing up a
Yeah.
match. And so I'm always looking for ways to troubleshoot that.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here because this was just announced, I think, earlier this week. This particular outlet,
Hmm.
so it's probably people are unaware that it's even there. I think there's
Yeah.
only 8 people, and half of them might be Intuit product managers
Yeah.
being in
I
here.
see
So,
Wayne there.
yep,
That's cool though. I'm gonna get into this thing and I'm
yeah.
going to
We have a we
give
have a
some
link there
suggestions.
for it. We have a link there for it right in the blog, so
Cool.
so you can access that. So that is, we didn't really unpack, how to do things, but again, that's kind of part of the challenge. And by the time we would do it and maybe struggle with it, they may have corrected it, right?
Yeah.
Because just this screenshot of match versus categorize, part of the feedback was, hey, these need to be a little bit more pronounced instead of this light gray
Yeah, I don't like
categorize.
that. I don't like
Yeah,
that because I can't tell, well, what's
yeah.
selected
It
and
should be
what's not
black, right?
selected. Yeah, yeah,
Right. So now those changes have already been implemented, right?
yeah,
So just this screenshot on the blog is already outdated. So
yeah.
um, get yourself familiar with using the new AI powered bank feed, and then hopefully this blog will help. And if needed, go into the School of Bookkeeping course catalog and learn about the old versus the new. Ask your questions in there if you need to, and we will be there to help. So next time on the workshop, we are going to be. What are we going to be talking about? So I always forget what's next. Next week, where are you? Scrolling down.
Navon, Naven.
Next
Product
week,
demo?
no, we're doing, we're
Oh,
going to talk
sorry,
about
that was rightful.
custom fields. There's been some changes to custom fields, and we'll be talking about that next week
Cool.
on the workshop. So, um, some changes that are there regarding custom fields inside of QuickBooks. And so appreciate you joining us today on the workshop Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. And hope everybody has a great week.
Bye.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of Workshop Wednesday, brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion and took away some valuable tips and strategies to enhance your bookkeeping practice. Remember, if you want to stay ahead in the world of bookkeeping and accounting, be sure to visit Schoolofbookkeeping.com. With a wide range of courses, resources, and expert guidance, you'll find everything you need to sharpen your skills and boost your career. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Your reviews help us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content every week. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, reach out to us on social media or send us an email at support@schoolofbookkeeping.com. We love hearing from our listeners and are always looking for new ideas to explore. Thanks for tuning in to Workshop Wednesday. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep excelling in your bookkeeping journey. I'm Dan DeLong, and we'll see you next week.